קראתיה ענני ומרחביה מן המצר קראתיה ענני ומרחביה עודך כי ענית אני ותהי לי לישועה עודך כי ענית אני ותהי לי ותהי לי לישועה המצר קראתיה ענני ומרחביה מן המצר קראתיה ענני ומרחביה עודך תהי לי לישועה עודך כי ענית אני ותהי לי ותהי לי לישועה Answer me, Aneni, Aneni, Aneni. 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 Answer me, Aneni.
Answer me, Aneni, Aneni, Aneni. Shabbat Shalom, and welcome everyone. Welcome to Central Synagogue. We welcome everyone who's in our sanctuary. We welcome all of you who are joining us as part of our virtual community. It's wonderful to be able to mark Shabbat, to be able to take a bit of a collective breath, a sigh, as we release ourselves from the tumult of the week behind us and find some time to just be present, to be joyous, to be restful. We all need a little bit of rest. And it is a beautiful day here in Manhattan. The sun is shining, the weather is outstanding. It's as if the city and the world around us knows that we have to celebrate today. Because today it's not just going to be Cantor Mutlu or myself who's going to be leading the service. We have an incredible bat mitzvah who's going to be taking her place in our community, Esme Myers. We are so excited to be celebrating with you and your family and your community, our whole community. Esme is one of our students who has really done almost all of her preparation for this day during this time when we've all been impacted by a pandemic. Becoming bat mitzvah is hard. It's a lot of work, and it's, I think, even harder with so much changing and so many different things coming, different decisions having to be made. And Esme has approached all of this with a really grounded sensibility about what's important and what matters, which is that she be called to Torah surrounded by loving community. And that's exactly what's happening today. We have your loving community upstairs, we, your loving community here, both downstairs, your clergy, the musicians, our team, our staff, but also this extended virtual community who is also here celebrating you and rooting for you and so excited to be marking a simcha, a joyous occasion. So we're going to take some time at the outset of our service to wake ourselves up. It's still a little early maybe for some folks who are watching, who are on not necessarily Eastern time zones, and maybe those who are on Eastern time zones haven't had their coffee yet. We're going to do some spiritual caffeine work with our early parts of the service, right, Cantor?
Sounds so good.
I mean, I think so. So what are we doing to wake ourselves up first? What are we starting? What prayer?
We're going to take that sense of celebration and thankfulness, and we're going to thank God for our souls. It's one of the first things that we're aware of when we wake up. We say thank you for the souls that you have planted within us, and we're so grateful. So we'll sing Elohai Neshama, page 78. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehurahi. Elohai, 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 Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehurahi. Ata berata, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi, ve'ata meshamera, meshamra bekirbi. Elohai, 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 Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehurahi. And now we will continue with our call to worship. Our Baruch Hu will rise and turn to page 108 if you have a siddur in front of you. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruchu et Adonai ha-mevorach. Baruch Adonai ha-mevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
On page 113 of our Siddur, we'll read together at the top. Once or twice in a lifetime, a person may choose a radical leaving, having heard Lech Lecha, go forth. God disturbs us toward our destiny by hard events and by freedom's now urgent voice, which explode and confirm who we are. We don't like leaving, but God loves becoming.
Baruch atah Adonai, abocher be'amo Yisrael, be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. Ani Adonai Elohechem. We continue now with our Song of Freedom, Michamocha, page 122. Ya Ela 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 Ya Ela 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 Ya Ela 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 Ya Ela Ela La 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 Michamocha Michamocha Ba'elim Adonai Michamocha Nena Bakodesh Nora Tehilo Tosefele Nora Tehilo Tosefele Shira Chadasha Shibchu Geulim L'Shimcha Tzfat Hayam Yachad Kolam Hodu V'himlichu v'yameru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam va'ed Adonai Yimloch Le'olam va'ed Ya la 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 Ya la 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 la
We're going to continue now on page 124 in our Siddur, page 124. We're going to begin Amidah, Tefillah, this section of our service, all together with the words on that page. And then we can either continue onward in the Siddur ourselves or take some time for silent and personal prayer. But we're going to begin all together reciting these words.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. So imrefi vegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri v'goali
Esme, we want to invite you up to the bima along with your parents, Peter and Lisa, your sister Willa. We want to invite the four of you up to the bima so that we can begin Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for the reading of Torah. The congregation can follow along on page 248. And Esme, if you would kick off this part of the service with the reading you have.
The light of Torah shines forth from Zion. Adonai's teachings flow from Jerusalem. This scroll has nurtured our people from Sinai to today. It teaches us love and justice, hope and peace.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai איתי ונרוממה שמו יחדיו.
Esme, with the Torah scroll in front of you, with the one I have in my arms, the one above you that you're about to read from, we mark this moment of you becoming bat mitzvah, which is more than just a title that we have in our community for when we move from being children to being responsible for everything the tradition has, all of its responsibilities and benefits, but also is a moment that ties us through thousands of years of our people's history and tradition. To the very first moment we stood at Mount Sinai and God offered us this scroll and these words, these stories, and said, learn from them and make them the anchor of your lives. Use them as a guidepost and help walk them into the future. And every time a student stands on our bima becoming bar or bat mitzvah, they move this tradition further and forward. They decide that they are going to root their lives in these words, to interpret them in their time and for their age, and to make and wrestle new meaning out of them. We are so proud of the choices you've made. We're so proud of the person you are and the person you're becoming. To talk more about what this moment means and to also represent that generational passing down, your parents are going to present you with an item that they'll tell us a little bit more about that represents this passing of tradition, and also share a few more words about you, Esme.
So, Esme, we are overjoyed to be here with you celebrating this day. We have a Kiddush
Peter,
Cup.
if you would just move the microphone a little closer. We all want to hear these beautiful
Yes.
words.
All right. Is that better? Is that okay?
Much better. Thank you.
Great. So, Esme, my darling, we have a Kiddush Cup from the historic Myers side of the family that dates back 100 years or more and is connected to the town in Poland that your great-grandparents come from, Ostrolenka. And when those folks came over to the U.S., they created a society here in New York City called the Ostrolenka Society, and they came up with this Kiddush Cup, which dates back to the early 1920s. And we want you to have this as you create your own relationship in Jewish life to celebrate Judaism, and maybe even you can help us decipher some of the things that have resisted clear answers. As we've done some research into this, it has some mysterious letters on the bottom of this cup, the YMBA, which have resisted our family's best internet searches. So with the cup, we also present you the challenge of answering difficult to answer questions. So take this and enjoy.
Thanks.
And Esme, we are so proud.
Thank you, Willa.
Esme, we are so proud of you on this amazing day, and what we have on the Silverman side, I would say, is a legacy of resilience and spirit in New York City. When you were born, you were already given something, which was your great-grandma Sophie's name as a middle name. What we have presented to you today is the tallis that your grandfather wore in his bar mitzvah during another very challenging time, that shows the resilience of all of us to get through anything with good humor. And we have also presented you with your great-grandma Yvette's beautiful bracelet. Great-grandma Yvette grew up around the corner from where your mom and your aunt and your grandparents grew up in the East Village. She was a very stylish lady. And we see that in you, and we see her spirit and her love of so many things and her passions. And we wish all of that for you going forward as an adult.
It's amazing to be wrapped up not just in our people's stories, but in our family narratives and our family stories, both of which are anchors of strength that guide us always in difficult days and good days and provide the heritage that we're a part of. So Esme, wrapped up in all of that history and memory, we'll invite you to announce the Torah portion that you'll be reading and your first aliyah.
Okay. My Torah portion is taken from Parsha Vayera, from the book of Genesis, chapter 19, verses 15 to 26. And for my first aliyah, I call upon my mom, my grandfather Joseph, my grandmother Marilyn, and my aunt Jen Silverman.
Baruch et Adonai Hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach Leolam Vaed. Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bashar banu michol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Uhmo hashahar Allah vayaitzu hamalachim belo lemor kum kav et ishteha ve'et shetei venateha hanimtza'or pen tisafei ba'avon ha'ir vayitmama ma Vayahaziku ha'anashim, veyado, uveyad ishto, uveyad shete venotav, bechem la Adonai alav, vayatziuhu vayanihuhu mihutz la'ir, vayahi chochotzi otam hahutza, vayomer himaled al nafsheha, Al tabid ahareha ve'al ta'amod hachol hakikar ahara himalei pen tisafei vayomer ela hine vayomer lo alehem al na Adonai.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, vaye olam natat b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
For my second aliyah, I call upon my dad, my grandfather Jesse, and my other aunt Jennifer.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bocha bonu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Hinena matzah abdecha chen בעיניך בתבדל חסדך אשר עשית עמדי לך חיות את נפשי ואנוכי לא אוכל להימלט הרע פן תדבקני הרעה ומתי הנה נא העיר הזו קרובה לנוס שמה והיא מצר ימלטנה שמה הלא מצר יבעטי נפשי ויאמר אליו הנה נסעתי פניה גם לדבר הזה לבלתי הופקי את העיר אשר דיברת מהר הימלא שמה כי לא אוכל לעשות דבר עד בואך שמה על כן קרא שם העיר צוהר.
Baruch Torah, Baruch Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam notah b'tocheinu, Baruch Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Beautiful chanting, Esme, of your first two aliyot, and we're going to ask your family now to all take a seat back in the congregation so that you are the only one up there, Esme, because this is a very, very special moment that is all yours that we have arrived at. It's really one of my favorite moments because by calling you up now to the Torah, we're making it official. We're making it official that you will have become a bat mitzvah at this very, very special moment, because we could not call you to the Torah at any point before this moment, because this blessing is a very special blessing, and it comes with it a responsibility to be a child of the commandments. That's what bat mitzvah means, that you are responsible and you represent us, and we are so proud that you represent us. So we call you now to the Torah for the very first time by your Hebrew name, which is not only your name, but as your mom already said, you're named after a great-grandmother and other grandmother, and you carry their legacy with you. You carry their hopes and dreams. You are the embodiment of what they hoped would happen today. And here we are with you chanting so beautifully and leading our service, and you'll also teach us from Torah. So we could not be more proud. So here we are. We're going to call you to the Torah as a bat mitzvah for the very first time. Tamod, 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 habat mitzvah, Zelda bat Mordechai Beleah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Hashemesh Yatsa al haaretz velod batzoara ba'Adonai himtir al Sedom ve'al Amorah gofri va'esh me'et Adonai min hashamayim vayahafoch et ha'arim ha'el ve'et kol ha'kikar ve'et kol yoshevei ha'arim ve'tzema ha'adama v'tabet ishto me'acharav Vatehi netziv melach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet vayeh olam nata betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Beautifully chanted, Esme, and now you're going to introduce your Haftarah portion for today.
The Haftarah for this week is taken from the book of 2 Kings. I'll be reading from chapter 4, verses 1 to 3.
Go ahead and start your Haftarah whenever you'd like.
Oh, sorry, I thought there was blessings. Ve'isha aha menesha v'nei hanevi'im sa'aka el Elisha lemor avdecha ishi mein ve'ata yadata ki avdecha hayare et Adonai esela ba la'akat et shenei yaladai lo la'avadim vayomer Eleha Elisha ma yesh la hagidili ma yesh la babayit vatomer ein leshiv hatechol babayit ki imasuch shamen vayomer lehi sha'alila kelim min hahut me'et kol shehenayich kelim reikim al tam iti.
Mazel tov, Esme. We want to invite your immediate family back up to the bima to surround you. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I was all ready to sing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, but that's not quite the time yet. Sorry, but I'm ready. I'm ready. We want to invite you to continue with your Devar Torah so that you can teach us a little bit more about the Torah portion you chanted and the meaning that you take from it.
Okay. One evening in Sodom, 2 emissaries came to stay with Lot. The emissaries told Lot to gather his family and their property. They told Lot he needed to leave because Sodom was going to be destroyed soon. He was only able to gather his wife and 2 of their daughters. They were told to flee the city and not to look back. Lot's wife took one final glance back at Sodom, her former home, the city in which she had lived in for years, and where 2 of her daughters remained behind. As she turned backward, God turned her into a pillar of salt. This story is full of uncertainty. Reading the narrative leads to many questions. One of the first we might ask is, why did Lot's wife turn back to the city, and why is she punished for doing so? There isn't a clear answer in the Torah. This leaves Jews and readers of the Torah to try and answer the question for themselves. What does Judaism suggest is the reason for this punishment? There are a few suggestions. The first is the simplest. God had issued a command. We don't need to understand it, only to obey. This explanation is not very satisfying. I don't think this is how God wants us to behave, like robots. Another commentary that tries to explain why anyone who looks back will be turned into salt explains that salt is a preservative in food. It keeps things from changing. Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt, because when she turned back to the city, it showed she wished to preserve the past, just like salt preserves food. Certain people, such as David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, have also tried to justify what happened to Lot's wife. Mr. Ben-Gurion wrote, "The past lives within us, not we in the past." He thought that while it is important to acknowledge the past and learn from it, he believed we have to find ways to move forward. This seemed very hard for Lot's wife because this was such an important period in her life. She raised her children and watched them grow into adults in Sodom. It sometimes can take us a long time to move on. I disagree with Mr. Ben-Gurion in some ways. Although there is a clear rule, and when we break rules we should be punished, this punishment is just too severe. I feel like Lot's wife should have been able to question this rule. It seems an unjust one. Abraham is able to question God when he finds his actions unfair. Why can't she do the same? I sympathize with Lot's wife. Her actions seem reasonable to me. Let's look at the situation from her perspective. Lot's wife didn't want Sodom to be destroyed, especially since she left part of her family behind in the city. She wanted to make her time there last as long as possible, to take a mental picture of the only city that she had ever truly belonged to, before she is cast into an unknown wilderness without a home. We all want the things we love to last. For example, I was very scared when COVID caused New York City to pretty much completely shut down because I didn't know when I would see my friends or family or go back to school. I knew it was going to end, though. I can't imagine what Lot's wife was feeling, knowing that she will never see 2 of her daughters again. Unfortunately, this story isn't something that has only happened in the past. Hundreds of families are being separated at the border and will possibly never get to see their other family members ever again because of unfair rules set by the government. We should always question rules that we feel are unjust. Otherwise, nothing will ever change. I believe that history will keep repeating itself until we learn to question rules that treat humans unfairly.
Asher Koach, and now, having heard that beautiful teaching, and I'm glad we didn't skip over it and go straight to the celebration like I was ready to do, because it really is a really incredibly insightful and deep look into this parsha, so thank you. But now I'd like to invite up your family, and we're going to sing Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov to be able to really celebrate everything you've done, Esme. I've been checking in on some of the comments from people. You've been getting well wishes and Mazel Tovs from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Brazil, Florida, Maine, Canada, South Africa, Portugal, Minnesota. People are all over the world screaming Mazel Tov, in addition to the community you have in front of you and all of us who are part of your community here at Central. We are so proud of everything you've done. Somebody noted that they could just see your family kvelling. They could see it on their faces when they were standing around you. Somebody asked, "What's kvelling?" And they replied, "It's like exuding joy," or I would say also it's like bursting with pride. And that's the way we feel right now. So we're going to give that pride an outlet by singing Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov and really celebrating it.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu, 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 O Lechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, O Lechol Yisrael. Israel, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulechol Yisrael.
So I'll invite all of you to have a seat as we prepare to move into our closing prayers for the service. Every worship service in Judaism has a moment for memory, a moment to memorialize those who we loved and lost. We're thinking of these dear ones who we lost in the last 4 weeks. Celia Wilder Commander, mother of Susan, grandmother of Ashley and Courtney. Mary Elizabeth Drabkin, aunt of Elizabeth and Michael. Diane Kovach, mother of David and Lawrence and sister of Gail Schneider. Natalie Cooper Rosenthal, mother of Evelyn, Elizabeth, Nancy, and David, wife of Sydney. And we're also thinking of these dear ones. We're thinking, Esme, of your Nana, Lola Myers, who would be certainly kvelling with incredible joy in this moment. as well as Sophie Adler and Molly Myers. We say Zichronam Livracha. May their memories be an abiding blessing. As we recite the words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, in your Siddur, in your prayer books on page 294, page 294. We say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha barichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Well, there's only one thing left to do today, and that's to celebrate with family and wish everybody a hearty Mazel Tov and a beautiful day ahead. So let's sing together Hallelujah as we give thanks for this beautiful day. Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov.
Hametzar karatia anani v'merchavya min hametzar karatia anani v'merchavya Odcha ki ani tani vatehili lishua Odcha ki ani tani vatehili vatehili Yeshua. Aneni, 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 answer me. Aneni, 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 answer me. Aneni, 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 answer me. Aneni, 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 min hametzar karatiya. Anani v'merchavya min hametzar karatiya. Anani v'merchavya odecha ki ani tani v'tehi Yeshua, Odecha ki ani tani, v'tehili, Yeshua. Aneni, 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 answer me. Aneni, 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 answer me. Aneni, 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 answer me. Aneni, 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 I call out to you. From a narrow place, your answer came to me from a wide open space. My heart cried out for you wherever you are. Your hand reached out to me, min hametzar. Aneni, 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 answer me. 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 Aneni, 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 min hametzar.
In the rising of the sun, we remember. In the blowing of the wind, we remember. In the opening of buds, we remember. We remember. we're weary and need strength, we remember. When we're lost and sick at heart, we remember. When we've joys we yearn to share, we remember. We remember. So long as we live, they too shall live. They are now a part of us. They are now a part of us. As we remember, we remember. We remember. We remember.
Yashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom Lehamidenu malach.
Ozi Simrat Yad Vayehili Lishua Ozi Simrat Yad Vayehili Lishua Simrat Yah Vayehili Lishua Ozi Simrat Yah Vayehili Lishua.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome all to Central Synagogue. We want to welcome our congregation who's here in person. We want to welcome so many of you who are part of our virtual community this morning joining us for this Shabbat worship. We are so overjoyed to be able to take the collective breath of Shabbat to find a little bit of refreshment and relaxation, a break from the world around us on this Shabbat especially. It's a joy to be able to take that breath together. I'm Rabbi Ari Lorge. I'm joined by my colleague, Cantor Dan Mutlu, by incredible musicians who are enhancing our worship and bringing that oneg, that joy, and a really incredible tech team who are helping us be as virtual a community as we can be. And I know we have people joining us from all over the world. The sun is shining in Manhattan. And I think the day must clearly know that this is an extraordinary Shabbat because the whole house of Israel is celebrating something. As one of our Israeli streamers said, the whole house of Israel is marking a student becoming bat mitzvah in our community. So not only will I and Cantor Mutlu be leading the service, we also have an extraordinary bat mitzvah, Hannah, who is going to be leading us, reading from Torah, teaching us Torah. We are so overjoyed to be celebrating this simcha with you and your family. Hannah has been part of an extraordinary cohort of our students who have had these simchas impacted by COVID-19 and the pandemic, and who have also been facing those changes and challenges with full hearts and in choosing to continue their studies and focus on the things that matter, like a room full of people who love Hannah, support Hannah, and a virtual community who's extended, who if you don't know Hannah, you will love her by the end of this service, but I know we are all already so proud of the person, Hannah, who you are and the person you're becoming. And we're joined by your parents, Jonathan, one of our board members, and by your mom, Rabbi Darcy Crystal, who is one of the reasons Central is such a wonderful place, is not just the clergy who we have in the staff, but also the incredible colleagues we have as part of the congregation. And we're just delighted that Rabbi Crystal will be helping us lead this service, this incredible service where her daughter becomes bat mitzvah. So we want to invite you to do what you need to do to separate and be part of this sacred time. And we're going to dive into our worship and dive into this moment for gratitude and praise.
All right, well, I'm going to give a second for Rabbi Crystal to ascend the bima, since she's going to help us lead this section of the service. And Rabbi, what is our opening song? Do you have the cue sheet there?
Elohai.
That's right. That's it. It was like Jeopardy. So we'll start with Elohai on page 78. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tehurahi. 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 Elohai neshama shenatata bi
We continue now with our call to worship on page 108. Please rise for the Baruch Hu.
Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai.
Please be seated. We continue on page 111. In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for the righteous, a promise that your light would become the catalyst, first for order and then for hope. Author of language and light, help us to use words as you have to cast light into dark waters and draw out justice and truth.
Baruch atah Adonai
הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שכבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
As we turn to our song of redemption, we are keenly aware that our world is still so much in need of healing, of liberation, and of renewal. We sing these words together with the fervent hope and commitment that we will work to bring about that redemption one day soon. Let us join together in singing Mi Chamocha on page 122.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh, no ra tehilot say fele Nora Tehilo Oh say fele
In a moment, we will pray the Amidah silently. Some of us may find that the words we need this morning are right on the pages in our prayer books. Others of us may find that it is the words in our hearts that need to find their way out. We will start together and continue in our own way and at our own pace, sitting when we are comfortable. Please rise now and turn to page 124.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Adonai open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Hu say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Hu say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Hu say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Hu say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We're going to continue on page 248 in our Siddur with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah, which Hannah will begin with a reading.
The light of Torah shines forth from Zion. Adonai's teachings flow from Jerusalem. This scroll has nurtured our people from Sinai to today. It teaches us love and justice, hope and peace.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlul Adonai iti, Onerom Ema Shemo Yachdav.
Hannah, this is something of a miracle and a miraculous moment, standing where we are in this period of time, preparing to pass down Torah to you. It's miraculous partially because of the extraordinary circumstances in which it's happening, and as I said earlier, the extraordinary response you've had in choosing this path during a moment that is particularly challenging for our people. But it's also extraordinary simply because we are really catapulting ourselves back through thousands of years of history and memory to the very first moment our people stood at Mount Sinai and received these scrolls, these words, these stories from God, and said we would use them as the anchor of our lives, and that they would be words and teachings that we would pass down and march into a future, read and reread and wrestle out and tease out new meaning. And that's exactly what you've done in the period of time that you've been asked to become a bat mitzvah. Our people have been doing this for thousands of years, sometimes in extraordinarily good times, sometimes under extreme adversity. You make us so proud as we see the person you're becoming and the way that you've chosen to march this Torah forward. You have incredible examples. Some of them are standing right next to you of Jewish leadership and communal involvement, but we know you're also part not just of our people's story, but of a family narrative and a family story too. And that's an anchor for us, just as much as these stories are. So I'm going to invite your parents to share with you some words and also an object that represents this passing down of tradition. They'll explain the object, but also share with you what it means to them to see you stand on this bima in this moment.
Hannah, 33 years ago today, on November 7th, I was called to the Torah for the first time as I became a bat mitzvah. And 20 years ago this week, your father and I were married, also in the midst of a tumultuous presidential election. On neither of those days could I have imagined what it would feel like to be standing on the bima here at Central Synagogue, surrounded by our family and friends, both in person and virtually, to celebrate our daughter's bat mitzvah. Today, you will read from the Torah for the first time, and we are passing you this yad. Daddy has it right there. It's a Torah pointer, and we're passing it to you from one generation to the next. Actually, the first one to use this yad was your grandma, Barbara, when she became a bat mitzvah as an adult in 2001. Grandma then passed it on to me, and I used that yad many times to read Torah. And your brother Eli, whom we miss today, though he is here with us through the wonders of technology, used this yad to read from the Torah when he became a bar mitzvah almost 3 years ago.
Of course, this yad represents all of the teachings, the traditions, and the values that all of your grandparents and we, your parents, have taught you and which you have embodied. We are so proud of the woman you have become. You are kind and intelligent. You are sensitive and empathetic. You are committed to making the world better. You are a thoughtful daughter. You are a caring sister and a devoted friend. Hannah, we marvel at your quiet strength, your resilience. Over the course of this crazy, crazy year, you've had your camp canceled, you've had your bat mitzvah delayed, you've lived in 3 different cities over the course of the last 6-7 months. And throughout it all, you've studied for school, you've prepared for your bat mitzvah, and you've done it all without complaint. You've been an absolute pleasure to be around, and you've helped our whole family navigate this really difficult time. We are amazed by the growth we've seen in you over just the past 6 months, and are excited to see the woman you become.
We know that this is only the beginning of your Jewish learning. We are so lucky that the Torah and Jewish tradition has so much to say to us today. And we are so lucky that at Crane Lake and at Central and at home, you will continue to learn and to embrace its wisdom and guidance. Mazel tov on this incredible accomplishment. We love you.
We love you.
So Hannah, we're going to invite you now to share with the congregation the Torah portion that you're reading from and to bring up your first Aliyah. We'll note, because we did end up having to move your date to a new date, we're reading the Torah portion that we would have read back in May when we were first geared up and ready to celebrate this simcha. And now we're even more charged and pumped. But tell us the Torah portion you're reading, and please call up your first Aliyah.
My Torah portion is taken from Parshat Behukotai from the book of Leviticus, chapter 26, verses 3 to 13. For my first Aliyah, I call upon my grandparents, Lynn, Barbara, Dennis, Jim, and Jean.
Baruch El et Adonai Hamavorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorah Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Im behukotai telechu, ve'et mitzvotai tishmeru, ve'asitem otam, ve'natati gishmechem beitam, ve'natana ha'aretz yevula, ve'et hasadeh yitain piryo. Vehisig lachem taish et batzir, uvatzir yasig et zara. Ve'achaltem lachmehem lasova, vishchavtem lavetach be'artechem. Ve'natati shalom ba'aretz, ushchavtem ve'ein macharid. Ve'hishbati haya ra'a min haaretz, ve'cherev lo ta'avor be'artechem.
Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'to'enu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For my second Aliyah, I call upon my parents and older brother, Darcy, Jonathan, and Eli.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Urdaftem et oivechem, venaflu lifnechem lecharev. Veradfu mikem hamisha mea umea mikem revava yertofu. Venaflu oivechem lifnechem lecharev. Ufaniti alechem, vehifreti etchem, vehirbeti etchem. V'hakimoti et bariti itchem, ve'achaltem yashan noshan, ve'yashan mipnei chadash totziu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. wonderful day this is. We're at this point now where we get to call you up to the Torah for the very first time. And we are just filled with so much pride and hope for the future. The way that you and your mom have led the service, the way that your dad is invested in leadership here at Central, it just speaks volumes to what you are becoming and what you will become. And this day is all about taking on that extra layer of responsibility, that extra layer that is part of the Jewish people, part of going forward and being a light and teaching others and helping others through. And we have absolutely no doubt that you are going to be that person, that you're going to grow fully into that role, considering not only how wonderful your role models are on the bima, off the bima, but also the way that you have led us and the way that you have taken this whole process leading up to your bat mitzvah so seriously, and how you've been really 100% in it. We are so, so proud and so hopeful for what you are becoming. So we call you now to the Torah for the very first time by your Hebrew name, acknowledging that you are named for many wonderful people in your family, your great-grandfather Milton, somebody who brought light and who was the life of the party, and your great-grandfather Herzl, and your great-grandfather Harry. So when we call you up by your Hebrew name, we're invoking all of their goodness and all of their hopes for you as well. We call you now as a bat mitzvah. Ta'amod, 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 habat mitzvah, Chana Meira bat Harav Rachel v'Yehonatan.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
V'natati mishkani betochachem v'lo tigal nafshi etchem v'hithalakti betochachem v'hayiti lachem l'Elohim v'atem tiyu li le'am. Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim miyot lachem avadim v'eshbor motot ulchem va'olech etchem komemiut. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
The Haftarah for this week is taken from the book of Jeremiah. I will be reading from chapter 17, verses 10 to 14. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzav v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Aboher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Ani Adonai hoker lev bochin kelayot velatet laish kidrachav kifri me'alalav korei dagar velo yalad osei osher velo b'mishpat bahatzi amav ya'azvenu uvacharito yihye naval kisei chavod Marom Merishon Mekom Mikdashenu Mikveh Yisrael Adonai Holos Vecha Yevoshu Besurai Ba'arati Kativu Ki Azevu Mekor Mayim Chaim Et Adonai Rifa'eni Adonai Be'rafei Hoshieni Ve'ivasheya Ki Tehilati Ata Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Sur kol haolamim Sadik bechol hadorot Ha'el hane'eman Ha'omer ve'osei Hamdaber u'mkayim Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek Al ha'torah Ve'al ha'avodah Ve'al ha'nevi'im Ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Likdusha v'limnucha Lechavod u'tifaret Al ha'kol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim lach Umbarachim otach Yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai Tamid le'olam va'ed Baruch ata Adonai
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
Mekadesh HaShabbat
Amen.
Yasher Koach. Hannah, I'm going to invite you now to share with us your Devar Torah and a little bit of teaching from the Torah portion you just chanted. I'll invite you to take 2 steps to your right also before you begin so that we have you squarely planted in front of a microphone to hear this beautiful teaching.
I'm not sure if it is a blessing or a curse that I'm becoming a bat mitzvah in the middle of a global pandemic. Over the past 7 months, I've experienced lots of ups and downs, and the rescheduling of my bat mitzvah was hard for me. But I'm glad I'm able to be in the sanctuary with some of my closest family and friends. As the book of Leviticus closes, this Torah portion lays out God's blessings for those who follow the commandments and do the right thing. It also lays out curses for those who disobey. Some of the blessings talk about living in peace, freedom, and having more than enough to eat. The long list of curses is not pleasant. We would think twice about doing the wrong thing if we believed that they would happen to us. They are so severe, I wonder if one could believe in God's goodness and believe that God could send those punishments upon people. As I read these lists, I decided that despite the fact the Torah tells us so, the world doesn't really work like this. I'm not convinced that simply following or not following mitzvot and laws will automatically put blessings or curses upon us. Bad things happen to people who do good all the time, and people who are wicked sometimes thrive. You might be thinking it sounds like I'm disagreeing with what the Torah says. I am, but I'm doing that based on what I see around me. An example of this is the coronavirus. In March and April, at the beginning of the pandemic, while we were all at home, essential workers were on the front lines. Nurses and doctors who worked in hospitals were doing whatever they could to help the people who had the virus, but some of them ended up becoming sick. These people were, and still are, doing amazing things for New York, the US, and even the whole world. If the principle in my Torah portion was accurate, wouldn't the medics not get the virus because they are volunteering to help stop it? Another example of this is climate change. Climate change is a growing issue throughout the world, with glaciers melting, sea levels rising, and severe wildfires and storms. Looking back, how did climate change begin to become a worldwide concern? The generations before mine inadvertently took actions that resulted in climate change, and we are the ones who are being impacted by it now in the present, and we will be in the future. And I know that it wasn't the fault of any one person, but collectively they made choices which harmed the environment. So, what's the point of doing the right thing? Maimonides, a medieval Jewish scholar, teaches that there's a hierarchy of reasons for why we do the right thing. The lowest reason is to get a reward. This is what my portion teaches. But Judaism ultimately teaches that there are better motivations to do the right thing. The next reason is to do something good for the community and to help the people around you.
The highest and last reason is because you know how it feels to be the other person you are helping, and you understand what is right. I realize that even today, there are people in the world that do good because they think they will get a reward. But I agree with Maimonides that there are better reasons to do the right thing. Even if we aren't going to get a great reward for doing mitzvot, wouldn't we feel fulfilled knowing we're making an impact on someone's life or making the world a little bit better? Last year, I got to be a part of the Central Synagogue Service Corps, and I participated in a variety of service projects, such as putting together care packages for homeless and hungry New Yorkers, donating clothes, and visiting an elderly woman in her home. I didn't do these to get a reward, I did them to help the community. What I've learned from studying my Torah portion is that our actions will not determine whether good or bad things happen to us. Instead, we must do what is right, even with the knowledge that our life may or may not be filled with blessings. What we leave behind in this world will be a legacy of the life we live. Doing the right thing is its own reward.
Yasher Koach. We want to invite back up your immediate family so that in this moment we can celebrate and sing words of congratulations to you, Hannah. I know so many of us have shared compliments with you about your quality of character and the person who you are, and I want to make sure you hear, those are things we feel not just because of the extraordinary things you have done on our bima this morning. They're the way we feel each and every day, seeing who you are, the kinds of actions you take. So we are so full-hearted as we sing Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov and celebrate with you now.
Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov U'Mazel Tov Siman Tov Yehei Lanu Yehei Lanu Yehei Lanu U'Lechol Yisrael Yehei Lanu Yehei Lanu U'Lechol Yisrael
We'll now invite your mother, Rabbi Darcy Crystal, to share words of blessing with you before the open ark.
To a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach. And I shall make your name great. Lech lecha. And all shall praise your name. Lechi lach. On your journey I will bless you. Lesimchat chayim. Lesimchat chayim. Lesimchat chayim. Lechi lach. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
Every service in Judaism concludes with a moment of memory and memorial. In our community, we're remembering these dear ones who have died in the past 4 weeks, for whom we're in a period of Shloshim. Celia Wilder, commander, mother of Susan, grandmother of Ashley and Courtney, Mary Elizabeth Drabkin, aunt of Elizabeth and Michael, Diane Kovach, mother of David and Lawrence, sister of Gail, Natalie Cooper Rosenthal, mother of Evelyn, Elizabeth, Nancy, and David, wife of Sydney. We say Zichronam Livracha, may the memories of our dear ones be an abiding blessing, as we join in words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach chiratei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei alamaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha barichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen.
We close now with this song of blessing, of joy and light, La Yehudim, and we wish a hearty Mazel Tov to the Crystal family and to Hannah. So let's sing together, La Yehudim. La Yehudim, Hai Tahora, B'simcha, B'sason, V'ikar. La Yehudim, Hai Tahora, B'simcha, B'sason, V'ikar. Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov.
This is a setting of Psalm 59. It says, I will sing of your strength. I will sing of your love. You are my haven, my refuge in times of trouble. You are my strength. I sing praise to you. Va'ani
ישירו זכה והרנן לבוקר חסדך כי היית משגב לי ומנוס ליום צר לי ואני אשיר עוזך והרנן לבוקר חסדך כי היית משגב לי ומנוס ליום צר לי
Okay, yeah, that does work well. All right, here we go.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my
Chant that last Aliyah.
Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'ed nasa שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בשרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בשרו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, בכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ובכל המאוד, ברא הוא הכל אלוהים. שירו
זה היום, זה היום, עשה אדוני. זה היום, זה היום, עשה אדוני. נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בו, נגילה ונשמחה. נגילה ונשמחה בו. זה היום, זה היום, עשה אדוני. זה היום, זה היום, עשה אדוני. נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בו. Today is a glorious day. Today is a day you have made. So come, let us sing and rejoice. So come, every soul, every זה היום, זה היום, עשה אדוני. זה היום, זה היום, עשה אדוני.
Our opening song is brought to us with words from the Psalms. This is the day the Eternal has made. This is the day God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We're wishing you a Shabbat Shalom here at Central Synagogue. Shabbat Shalom and welcome all of those who are here with us in person, all of you who are joining us virtually. This is a day to rejoice and be glad. And what a Shabbat it is. Not just because it's Shabbat, but also because we have a wonderful student becoming bar mitzvah in our community, Daniel. We are so proud and so excited to be celebrating and marking this simcha with you and your family, with our entire central community. You have been, for many years, a leader in our community, including working with us to create a new family machzor with a group of your peers. We've celebrated many simchas with your family, including the recent confirmation of your older sister. It's a joy to be once again celebrating in our sanctuary with you and your family. And you are a part of a cohort of incredible students who have been preparing for this day during extraordinary times. This day has been one that has been impacted as you've been preparing for it by COVID, and a lot of your work and a lot of your preparation had to shift and change, and we are so proud of the way that you've remained focused on what's important and what is truly eternal about this day, being surrounded by family and people who love you and are proud of you as you take your place in our community and to continue on the tradition. So we cannot wait to dive into worship this morning with you and to really be part of this incredible moment all together. We are truly grateful. So we're going to begin with a prayer that's going to get us ready and open and excited if we're not already feeling it, though I've got a feeling a lot of people are already feeling it. A lot of people are already feeling that excitement. But what's the prayer we're going to start with,
We're going to
Cantor?
start with Elohai Neshama. We'll thank God for our souls. You can find that on page 78. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi, Elohai. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tehorahi, Tehorahi, Elohai, Elohai. Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tehorahi, 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 Tehorahi. We're going to continue now with our call to worship Baruch Hu on page 108, and we'll ask you to please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
We're going to continue reading together at the top of the page on page 113 in your Siddur and your prayer book. We join together. Once or twice in a lifetime, a person may choose a radical leaving, having heard Lech Lecha, go forth. God disturbs us toward our destiny by hard events and by freedom's now urgent voice, which explode and confirm who we are. We don't like leaving, but God loves becoming.
Baruch atah Adonai, abocher b'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto leolam va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha
היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Our song of freedom, Michamocha, on page 122. Michamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha, Neda B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilo, Oseh Fele, Nora Tehilo, Oseh Fele, Michamocha, Ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha, Neda B'Kodesh, Nora Tehilo, Oseh Fele, Nora Tehilo, Oseh Fele.
We're going to continue in our Siddur on page 124. I'll invite you, if you're able, to rise as we prepare for the words of Amidah, our standing prayer. We'll join together on the words on page 124 and then continue either on our own through the Siddur or on our own with the prayers and expressions of our heart. But we'll join together at the outset now.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Ratzonim refim refi Vegyo libi lefanecha Yiyu leratzonim refim refi בהגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי בגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי בגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, אמרי פי, בהגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, אמרי פי, בהגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי בגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי בגואלי. ולרצון אמרי פי, אמרי פי, בהגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, אמרי פי, בהגיון ליבי לפניך.
Daniel, we want to invite you and your immediate family up to the bima as we prepare for Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah, which we can find on page 248 in our prayer books. And Daniel, when you're at the bima, we'll invite you to begin this section of our service with the reading.
The light of Torah shines forth from Zion. Adonai's teachings flow from Jerusalem. This scroll has nurtured our people from Sinai to today. It teaches us love and justice, hope and peace.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadelu Adonai iti unero mema shemo yachdav.
Daniel, this is a miraculous moment. We stand here ready to see you become bar mitzvah, to take on all of the responsibilities, obligations, and privileges of our tradition. This moment transports us through time, thousands of years, to when we first stood at Mount Sinai and made the promise between God and the Jewish people, the sacred covenant, that we would march this scroll forward into the future, use these words to anchor our lives, to reinterpret them each and every generation for ourselves. And we are so full-hearted seeing you prepare to formally mark that after a full life so far of commitment to it. This is very much a continuation of who you are and of who your family is. And we are so proud to see you get ready to take your place in our community. Our people have been doing this for thousands of years during moments of extraordinary goodness and moments of adversity. To see you do it in this moment really fills us up. I want to invite your parents to share a little bit more about what this moment means as they see you carrying forward this tradition, and also to share with you objects that represent this generational past, because while you're anchored in the stories of our people, you're also anchored in the stories of your family, both of which are extraordinary heritages that you receive today.
We're going to start with his sister.
Daniel, I remember sending you a 4-page double-sided letter your first summer at camp to only receive a literal one-liner back. Hi, Annabelle, camp is good, Daniel. So I will try to keep this short. But in all seriousness, it's been a complete joy to watch you go through life, as cheesy as that may sound, whether being there with you on your first day of kindergarten, as you entered the yard just a half an hour earlier than me, a then fourth grader, and flashed that now braceless smile just a half an hour earlier than me. Oh, just a half, going through the red doors, or when I left you on your first day of camp, and now as you become a bar mitzvah. I've loved seeing all of your great and not so great moments, and hope that you will remember those when I'm away next year. And not to embarrass you, but you do make an appearance in one of my college essays, so if I don't get in, it's entirely on you. I truly hope you have the best day ever, because no one has worked harder, smarter, or more assiduously than you. I want you to know that I recognize the amount of hours you put into making this work, especially amidst the pandemic, and the amount of perseverance you've shown, not only now, but throughout your 12 years and 364 days of existence. I've loved knowing you for these past 4,744 days, and to know that these few hours now with our family will be the most meaningful out of them. I'm so lucky to be here with you to celebrate your accomplishments in the most special hours of our lives. I know Mom will definitely be including some corny quotes in her speech, so I'll spare you here. But let me end with this. Daniel, you are truly one of a kind. I hope you know that I love you so much. I could not be prouder of you, and you'll always be my brother and friend.
Thank you, Annabelle. I wish you could have been more precise about exactly how long.
First, let me say we're so grateful to Central Synagogue for permitting us to be here today for Daniel's bar mitzvah. Although we have all come to embrace Zoom over the last few months, there's no replacement for being in this magnificent sanctuary. We'd like to thank Rabbi Lorge, Karen Demutlu, and Suzanne Hamstra for their guidance in Daniel's preparations for today. As we gather to celebrate Daniel's accomplishments today, our hearts go out to all those affected by illness or loss due to the pandemic. Daniel, as you enter Jewish adulthood today, I can't help but think back to the day you were born. Your dad and I were so overjoyed to be having a second child, we didn't care to find out your gender. It didn't matter. But my mother's intuition told me, we're having another girl. On your arrival, your dad said, it's a boy. I immediately turned to the doctor for confirmation or perhaps a correction. The doctor did confirm that your dad knows the difference between a boy and a girl, but at that moment, I felt woefully unprepared to be a boy mom, as I only knew from having sisters and a daughter. Despite my initial hesitancies, you have shown me the joys of being a boy mom. You are one of the kindest, most empathetic, and smartest people that I know, despite your young years. Since you were just 2 years old, you have been your sister's sidekick at your passion project, Alex's Lemonade Stand, to raise money for pediatric cancer research. Your commitment and hard work show what's in your heart. Your desire to help people that you don't even know and to make others feel better is one of the many things that I love about you. In sports, you epitomize what a great athlete should be. You're a student of the game, and you always give it your best effort. A former baseball coach once said to me, the thing that he loves most about you is your heart. They say there's no crying in baseball, so I held back the tears, but I knew he summed you up perfectly, all heart. Although you always strive to be the best player on the field or on the court, you're an even better teammate. More concerned about your buddy's successes than your own, you're a true and loyal friend. When someone asks me what you're like, I usually just say, he's a really fun kid. Not because you're a jokester or life of the party, which you can be, but mostly because you simply find joy in everything that you do. You are my cooking, baking, and grilling buddy, sports watching partner, and technology consultant. Although you're a constant challenge to my cleanliness standards, I wouldn't have changed having you there by my side. Having you there just makes my day better. Okay, here comes the cheesy quote. If I could give you one piece of advice today, I would quote Elie Wiesel, who said, whatever you do in life, think higher, feel deeper. When you're out in your community, think higher. And when you're face-to-face with another human being, feel deeper. Be more of whatever you are. Do something remarkable with every moment. These are words that you already live by, and I hope you will continue to live by. I'm so proud of all of your hard work in preparing for today and the young man you have become. I look forward to your future successes, and I will have the honor of saying, I am that boy's mom. Soon, Rabbi Lorge will call you to the Torah by your Hebrew name, Zvi Avraham. Zvi after your great-grandfather Irving, and Avraham after your great-uncle Alan. How fitting that you were named after two men who could only be described as having been true gentlemen. Today is part of your bar mitzvah service. Your dad and I each have important items from our Jewish heritage to share with you. I am passing to you your grandfather's Kiddush Cup that was given to him by his grandparents the day he was born. I'm not sure what looks better, the 83-year-old cup or your 83-year-old grandfather. With this cup, I pass to you our family values of hard work, integrity, faith, family, and of course the commitment to be lifelong Yankee and Giants fans. I promise you that one day all of these things will contribute to a fulfilling life. I love you. Okay.
Yeah, and I will pass along to you, Daniel. Well, Mom did it already. A very heavy candlestick. It's one of a pair. As I was told from one of my aunts, this came from Lithuania back in the late 1800s from my
Your great-grandma.
great-grandparents, the Walks. It was passed down, they were passed down to my grandmother, Rose Scholzberg, and then my grandmother passed them down to my Aunt Ellie, and then over to my Aunt Janny, and then on to us. So they've got very special meaning, and they've been through multi-generations. So use them in good health and burn many candles in them.
Mazal
So on to my little bit about Daniel. So first and foremost, thank you to Central, as Dina said, family, friends. Today is a very beautiful day in New York City, 72 degrees and sunny. We're so sorry that not everybody could be here with us. Very special mention to my sister in California, Wendy, our aunts, uncle, cousins. Today is a wedding of our cousin Beth's daughter, Rachel, up in Boston. So many congratulations to the Niederman Haas family. Central, right here, is where it started for Daniel and where it started for Annabelle, because they were preschool students. And I'm reminded of Daniel's education here because pre-COVID, I would run into one of his teachers, Dalit, on Lexington Avenue fairly frequently. And we would speak about Daniel's time at Central and how time has gone by so quickly. And, you know, the last couple of weeks in trying to suit Daniel up has shown how quickly the time has gone by. So the family started in a department store a few weeks ago looking for a suit for him in the boys' department. He came out of the dressing room busting out of a suit, so we said, nope, we've got to go to the men's department. As it turns out, he's now a size 34 men's suit. Same thing happened with shoes. We went to a shoe store, the kids' shoe store at first. Nope, too small. So we went to the men's store, and a very nice salesman named Khan helped us out, and he's a size 9 men's shoe. So it's amazing since age 4 at Central to now, 9 years later, how much he's grown in every way. I would say that when I looked up in Urban Dictionary under the name Daniel, here is what it comes up with. A friend who sticks by your side no matter what. Everybody, from kids to grandparents, love him. He himself is a total kid at heart and will have you rolling on the ground laughing with his antics. He's the leader of his friend group and throws parties like no other. I hope not. Perfect catch. Knowing him is the best thing that will ever happen to you. In this case, one of the best things, but a really important thing. And I have to say, I love hanging with you, buddy. We are best buds. We watch movies together. We play ping pong. We shoot hoops in the house. We get yelled at. We're like partners in crime, and it's just always a fun time. And as Mom said, you're a true sportsman. You play to win. You are absolutely focused, but you also have a lot of integrity and a lot of sportsmanship. And I think that that's very, very important. You balance everything, and first and foremost, you have a great time. And I think your leadership really shows through. And we love that in so many things about you. I can't fail to mention that it is a sad day in a way that Grandma Joan can't be here with us. She'd be very surprised and very, very gratified to know what you've grown up to be. And Grandpa Al as well. You guys never got to meet each other, but you truly would have been thick as thieves and great buddies like we are. So I'll just end by saying, as one of my cousins said, normally this day is the culmination of all the hard work and your journey. But as he so eloquently said, and this is Jim Porter, thank you for this, Jim, I'm going to steal your words. This is the beginning of a new journey. And Mom, Annabelle, the rest of the family, and I wish you lots of luck and success in your new journey forward in life. And we love you, buddy.
Mizal tov, mizal tov. So Daniel, we'll have you introduce your Torah portion and call up your first Aliyah.
My Torah portion is taken from Parshat Vayera from the book of Genesis, chapter 18, verses 23 to 33. For my first Aliyah, I call upon my Grandma Gail, Grandpa Robert, and Arnella.
Baruch es Adonai HaBaruch.
Baruch Adonai HaBaruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBaruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'Chabonu Mikol Ha'amim V'nosan Lanu Es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaygash Avraham, Vayomar Ha'af Tisbeh, Tzadik Im Rasha, Ulai Yesh, Chamishim Tzadikim, Betoch Ha'ir, Ha'af Tisbeh, Belo Tisa Lamakom, Leman, Chamishim HaTzadikim, Asher b'kirba, Halil aleha, me'asot kadavar hazeh, lehamit tzadik im rasha, v'hayach tzadik karasha, Halil alah, hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh, Mishpat.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Nasan Lanu Toras Hanes V'chei Olam V'tah B'socheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
For my second Aliyah, I call upon Aunt Brooke, Aunt Jill, Uncle Walter, Uncle Robert, and Aunt Wendy watching on live stream.
Baruch Adonai HaBaruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBaruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher B'Chabonu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai im emtza bisdom chamishim tzadikim betoch ha'ir v'nasati l'chol hamakom ba'avuram vaya'an Avraham vayomar hinei nach ho'alti ledaber el Adonai Vanochi עפר ואפר. אולי יחסרון 50 הצדיקים, 5 התשחית ב5 את כל העיר, ויאמר לו אשחית אם אמצא שם 45. ויוסף לדבר אליו ויאמר אולי יימצאון שם 40. ויאמר לו אעשה בעבור 40.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu, baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Beautifully done, Daniel. And now we're going to ask your aunts and uncles and your parents to go back to their seats in the congregation so that only you are up at the Torah for a moment, because this is a moment all of your own. We say, Zeh Hayom, today is the day, and now is the time. Now is the time where we get to call you up to the Torah for the very, very first time as a bar mitzvah. You look excited about it. That's awesome. That's really, really great. And when we call you up to the Torah by your Hebrew name, we acknowledge that you are connected in this long line of generations of people who passed the Torah down, hoping that it would be read, hoping that people would learn from it from generation to generation, and hoping that people would continue to teach their children. And you are proof of all of that. You are the realization of all of those hopes and dreams of your ancestors and the people that came before you, that this Torah would be passed down to you and that you would take it today and say, I am a bar mitzvah. So as we call you up to the Torah today, we acknowledge that you are named after your mother's grandfather, Irving, and your great-grandfather, who is your great-grandfather. And it is so special to invoke these names because, again, their spirits come out and their goodness comes out in all that you do today. So we are filled with pride and joy as we call you up for the very first time as a bar mitzvah. Yamod, 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 ha-bar mitzvah, Zvi Avraham ben Mordechai Bedina. And now you can do the blessing before.
Baruch et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim venatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayomer al nach yihar ladonai va'adeberach ulai yimatzun sham shloshim vayomer lo ese im emtza sham shloshim vayomer Hine nach hoalti ledaber el Adonai ulai yimatzun sham esarim vayomer lo ashchit ba'avur ha'esarim vayomer al nach yihar ladonai Va'adabra af hapam ulai yimatzun sham asara vayomer lo ashchit ba'avur ha'asara. Vayelech Adonai ka'asher kilach ledaber el Avraham ve'Avraham shevlim komo.
And now the blessing after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam natav betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. After beautifully leading us in the chanting of the Torah, now you'll introduce your Haftarah portion.
The Haftarah for this week is taken from the book of 2 Kings. I will be reading from chapter 4, verses 32 to 34. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'inviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
Vayavo Elisha habayta vehine hanar met mushkaf al mitato. Vayavo vayskor hadelet beyad shnehem vayitpalel el Adonai vayal vayishkav al hayeled vayasem piv al piv ve'enav al enav ve'chapav al chapav vayighar Allah vayachom besar hayalen.
Yasher Koach, we'll invite you now, Daniel, to share your Devar Torah with us, to teach us from the Torah portion you just beautifully chanted, and to provide us your insight on the text.
Have you ever been in a situation where a person of authority, perhaps a parent or a teacher, has said or done something that you know is wrong and you feel an urge to speak out against it? Well, imagine how Abraham felt when he realized that God was making a big mistake by deciding to kill all the residents of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah just because some, not all, of the people were committing sins. Abraham had a nephew named Lot that lived there, and he knew both Lot and his family were decent people. Abraham asked God, if there were 50 good people, would you still destroy the entire town? God replied, no. And so Abraham then asked, if there were 45 or 35 good people, would you still destroy the towns? And God finally replied, if there are 10 good people, I will not destroy them for the sake of 10 innocent people. As I read through my Torah portion, I wondered, when is it okay to speak out against a ruling authority? Based on this Torah portion, it seems we are expected to speak up against any power and offer alternative solutions that might be more appropriate. If Abraham could speak out against God's authority, we should feel obligated to speak out against any human authority when we feel it is acting unjustly or immorally. We can actually see throughout history how speaking out against a ruling authority when it is necessary has made important positive changes in society. Several years ago, I went on a family trip to South Africa where I witnessed systemic racism and a government not treating their people fairly. Apartheid was a South African government policy that segregated the white minority and the non-white majority and sanctioned racial discrimination against non-whites. The first protest against the system started in 1960, and finally, in the 1990s, the government repealed the policy. One of the activists, named Nelson Mandela, went on to become the first black president of South Africa after being imprisoned. Although apartheid was abolished in 1994, the society is still dealing with racism and oppression. This is similar to what's happening today in America, as we also try to right the wrongs of our country's history of racism. Right now in the world, there's a lot of racial injustice, and people are standing up for what they think should be happening. In America, time and time again, police officers shows bias towards people of color. Protesters are standing up to the government and calling for the changes that will allow everyone to be treated equally. Like Abraham speaking up against God's unjust ruling, protesters are standing up against the police and politicians who have enabled or participated in the creation of systems that disadvantage or even actively harm people of color. In 2020, we lost two icons who lived their lives speaking truth to power. John Lewis was a leader who engaged in good trouble to promote civil rights in our country. He said, "When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state, it is an act." Ruth Bader Ginsburg fought her entire life so that women and others would be treated equally under the law. She said, "Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." Even in death, she continued to break ground, as she was the first woman and the first Jew to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. This subject matters to me because even though someone has more power than you, it doesn't mean that they are right, and we must challenge them. This is a surprising message for a religious text. In our minds, we think of God as all-knowing and omnipotent. Why would we need to challenge God? It would seem God is trying to teach us a lesson about how to stand up to people with power. If we learn to question God, there is no person on earth who we might not also challenge if we feel they are acting unethically.
Yasher Koch, Daniel, what an important, timely message. And I know we all look forward to seeing the many ways you use your voice and your advocacy in the future. We want to, having now witnessed you chant Torah and Haftarah to teach us beautifully from your Parsha, we want to invite your immediate family back up to surround you. And all of us want to be able to give an expression, an outlet to the joy and the love and the pride that we're feeling, having seen you taken your place on our bima and in our community. And we want to be able to express that joy with some song. We're going to sing Siman Tov U'Mazel Tov to celebrate the person who Daniel is and the person who Daniel's becoming. Let's all join together now.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu, 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 oh lechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, oh lechol Yisrael.
Mazal Tov. We'll invite you all to find your places in the congregation again. We're going to turn towards the concluding prayers of our service. Every Jewish prayer service includes a moment of memory and memorial. In our community, we're remembering these dear ones who we lost in recent weeks, for whom we're in a period of shloshim. Celia Wilder Commander, mother of Susan, grandmother of Ashley and Courtney. Mary Elizabeth Drabkin, aunt of Elizabeth and Michael. Diane Kovach, mother of David and Lawrence, sister of Gail Schneider. Natalie Cooper Rosenthal, mother of Evelyn, Elizabeth, Nancy, and David, wife of Sydney. We hold them in our hearts, all of those for whom we are observing Yahrzeit, and those who are dear to your family, as we continue on page 294 with words of Kaddish Yatom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirteh ve'amlich malchuteh, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei techol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shmei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ve'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Daniel and family, there's only one way to conclude this service, this perfect, beautiful day together, and that will be with song and a prayer for peace. So let's sing together, Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tebel ve'imru Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tebel ve'imru Shabbat Shalom and Mazel Tov.
Mazel Tov. Shabbat Shalom.